All right, we're sitting here with Art Larrance in his backyard, having a hoagie and a beer, talking about Oregon beer and Cascade Brewing and the Oregon Brewers Festival. So, Art, you started Portland Brewing in the early days. Eventually left the company. Did you immediately know that you wanted to start another brewery after that?
It was in November. I kind of treaded water for a while, thinking, oh, I'm 50 years old. Do I just want to run the beer festival and let that be what I go do? Or do I want to go do something else? I decided if I did something else, I didn't want to do it with partners. I didn't want to get into a stock sales situation again or silent partners. That was tough at Portland Brewing, dealing with that. And I kept driving by the piece of property on Beaverton Hillsdale Highway, and a friend of mine named Joe Weston owned it. He owns the building next door. He's one of the bigger property owners in the city. And in 1968, I took 68, 69 over that winter, took the real estate classes, and he was the instructor because I was thinking about wanting to get a real estate license. And I ended up meeting Joe. I ended up getting my real estate license, ended up quitting my job at Esco Corporation, selling my house in Northwest Portland, and eventually buying this house over 50 years ago that we're sitting at right now. And Joe said, I don't sell a lot of property, but yeah, I'll sell it to you. And I offered him $5,000 less than the appraised value. Appraised value was $185,000. He said, I'll take $185,000. And from the day that I signed that option agreement in February of '95, it took 3 years and 10 months. We opened in '98, so it took 16 months to build it.
And you just recently decided to sell it.
Decided to sell the business and that piece of real estate where the lodge is, formerly Raccoon Lodge, now the lodge at Cascade Brewing. They also they get the lease on the blending house. Have you ever been to that out there?
I haven't been yet.
Okay,
I need to visit.
have to get you to that. And then they're leasing the building on 10th and Belmont, the Barrel House, and I will retain ownership of that building.
Why sell it now, and how did that come about? Were you looking for a buyer, or did they approach you?
No, I was looking for a buyer. I'd been thinking about it for a while. And Ramey Mount, who is the leading investor in it, has been a long time customer of ours and friend, and it was a casual conversation that started in January. Said, hey Ramey, why don't you buy me? What? You want to sell? Yeah. Well, I think I would be interested. Let's talk about it. What do you want? Told him, yeah, I think we can do that. And he put together his group, and it was a quick put it together situation, and they took possession of it on April the 1st. I am still the majority stockholder. There's a buyout provisions there's 4 phases to the buyout. We just completed phase 1. It will finish up on a 5-year buyout of stock.
Okay. So have you completely stepped back from the operations at this point?
Yeah, they're part of the agreement is that they are operating it.
Why did you want to get out at this time?
Well, not because of the virus. I mean, we were already working on it before that, and I've been thinking about it for a couple of years, so it's not a new thought. It was just a coincidence that came along. And I'm so thankful that they maintained their interest in it. Once the virus came along, there were some additional negotiations. And we came to an agreement. Why did I want to get out? I'm 76. It's time to go smell some roses. I just want to play with the toys I've got.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need to go get anything else. I don't want a boat, don't want an airplane.
What about festivals? Oregon Brewers Fest. Would this been the 33rd?
This would have been the 33rd year. So, yeah, it was not a hard decision to say, no, we're not going to do it this year. It was actually a pretty easy decision. I just don't think people are ready to congregate. Let's go. I didn't want to take the risk. It's a big event to put on.
Mm-hmm. Do you still want to keep doing festivals?
Yeah, I want to keep doing the Brew Fest. I think my daughter and granddaughter want to keep doing it, and Teddy Peets and I. We said we wanted to do it till we're 75. We're 76 now.
Are you looking at? So you're looking at you personally remaining involved, or
Yeah.
have you thought about other owners or anything?
Well, I thought about other owners.
Mm-hmm.
Not ready to do anything at this time. I want the thing to perpetuate itself.
Uh-huh.
I think it's something that 33 years went by really fast.
What are you thinking about for next year? I mean, you think it's going to have to change again?
I don't know. We want to bring the same brewers back. Everybody that's going to come this year, if they're still in business,
Yeah.
we want them back next year. I don't know. We'll just have to see. Maybe my crystal ball's got a crack in it. I can't really read it that well anymore. I don't want to go try to force something on people. If they're ready to congregate. First big test might be coming up with Preston's for the Winterfest. I don't think there's any big other events that are scheduled right now. World's Festival's thinking about September, October. And I listened to Jeff Curtis the other day, and they're wait and see, and let's take a look at it. And they've just got an open mind, and they're a good group of well-founded people, good event planners, sound organization. They'll make the right decision.
Do you think, like, let's say before the pandemic, were there too many festivals?
There was a lot. And we were kind of at the end of the season with our Oregon Brewers Festival at the end of July, because we'd already been hit with PDX had come through, and International had come through, and literally about every weekend, as you know, there were festivals going on, big, little.
Yeah.
Plus, 45% of people that come to OBF are from outside this area, and all those areas have got festivals.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of, and I don't call it competition. It's just I look at it as an avenue to create awareness for craft beer, and that's what these events do. And they've done well. They've served their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Oktoberfest is well over 200 years old, and they got friggin' canceled this year.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
I went there in '76 for the first time. Been back 3 times since. Have you been there?
No, I really want to go.
I mean, these beer tents, those will seat 10,000 people.
It's hard to even imagine about not having been there myself. Yeah.
Rows of tables in the middle, like a big boxing ring, but it's a stage up, and that's where the band is. And there's about 25 members in those Oompa bands. And one will play for 2 hours, they'll get down, another one will be right up there, and away they go.
So, I mean, how do you feel about the state of the craft beer industry right now?
Well, it's exploded in the last 3 years, actually. I mean, remember when we used to say there were 4,000 breweries, then there were 5,000, then there were 6,000, then there were 7,000. I don't know what the number is right now.
Yeah.
But all of this has created a real likeness for beer. And I go back to some of the early markings for me to help make the decision to get into this. And I go back to one early time when Fred and I were building the brewery, and I was out in Hillsboro doing something. I was getting some gas. I had a little sticker on the side of my car that was stuck to it that said Portland Ale. And there was a guy getting gas in the next bay over, and he went, "You make beer?" I said, "Well, we're trying to start a brewery in Portland. A couple guys of us from Hillsboro going there." "Oh, that's good." He says, "I'll tell you something, son. You make good beer, people will drink it." He said, "It's about that simple." And I went, "Okay, it's about that simple. You make good beer, people will drink it." The other thing that to talk about how this craft brewing got started, and that would be when the Ponces and the Widmers and the McMinimums and Fred and Jim and I would go look at where are we going to get our market. And OLCC has got that list that comes out every month. Mm-hmm. Who's selling what beer?
Yeah. The taxable.
Way down at the bottom, they had imports. It was about 1.5% of the total. And that's what we were all looking at. We were looking at the bottom thing. We weren't looking at the top. Mm-hmm. But where did it come out of? It didn't come out of the bottom, the market. That market expanded. It came out of the top. It came out of the yellow industrial beers. Mm-hmm. That's who got hit. Bud, Miller, Coors. We don't have a Weinhardt's in town anymore. Olympia closed up. Rainier closed up. Yep. And I look back at that and I go, we, meaning the craft brewers, could not have written a better script for ourselves than to have the local breweries that are 150 years old close up. Because people like to drink their local beer. There were people that drank their Olympia. There were people that drank their Rainier. We had Lucky across the river from us. We had Blitz in Portland. Mm-hmm. In the mid-50s, Heidelberg closed up in Tacoma. And in the middle 50s, Salem Brewing closed up in Salem, Oregon. The Medford Brewery, A1, I think they closed up in the latter 40s. So we only had Weinhardt's left in Oregon up until, 20 years ago when that went out. Yeah. Or was it even 20 years ago? Oh, yeah. So that's why I say we couldn't have written a better script for ourselves to get rid of the competition than the big boys go away.
If you were going to open another brewery right now, or if you had to if you were ready to open a new brewery, or you're younger and had that ambition again, what would you do right now?
I don't know that I'd build one with so many of them that are around right now. Mm-hmm. I would, if I wanted to be in the beer business right now, I think I would try to work with somebody that was well established in the market. I wouldn't know where to go with a new one. In the 80s, it was being in the right place at the right time. I think politically people were thinking about that sort of thing. There have been a couple small breweries start up in California. I think there were only about 50 total breweries in the country in those days, big and little. No, I was a part-time job when I started. Fred was full-time brewing and I was part-time. And then it took off. I mentioned earlier that we had there were 22 accounts when we took over doing the Grants products. Uh-huh. Yeah. And we expanded it up to about 45 accounts. And then Mr. Grant said, I want to take back my license and I want to go back making Grants. So we said, okay. And then we started making, for about 6 weeks, Portland Scottish Ale, and then it became McTarnahan's.